Hi everyone, I'm Linda Reimer, one of the librarians at the Southeast Bend County Library. And I hope you can hear this because this morning I'm having all kinds of tech issues. The battery in my Bluetooth remote is shot. Don't have another one on hand. I can't find the cable for my microphone, so it's that kind of a technical morning. But anyway, I digress. Welcome to Library Connections, our weekly readers, viewers, and listeners advisory video cast. Enjoy. Library Connections number 83. This is the Friday, January 7th, 2022 edition of Library Connections. And Happy New Year! Kicking things off as usual with the top 5 fiction bestsellers for this week from the New York Times. At number 1, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. A battered wife, raised in a violent home, attempts to halt the cycle of abuse. At number 2, Verity by Colleen Hoover. Loan Ashley is hired by the husband of an injured writer to complete her popular series and uncovers a horrifying truth. At number 3, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A movie icon recounts stories of her loves and career to a struggling magazine writer. At number 4, Annihilation Road by Christine Feehan, the 6th book in the Torpedo Inc. series. Savage sets Sachel's whole body on fire. And at number 5, The Judge's List by John Grisham, the 2nd book in the Whistler series. Investigator Lacey Stoltz goes after a serial killer and closes in on a sitting judge. Moving on to the top 5 nonfiction bestsellers for this week. At number 1, The 1619 Project, edited by Nicole Hannah Jones, Caitlin Roper, Elena Silverman, and Jake Silverstein. Viewing America's entanglement with slavery and its legacy in essays adapted and expanded from the New York Times Magazine. At number 2, Will by Will Smith with Mark Manson. The actor, producer, and musician tells his life story and lessons he learned along the way. At number 3, The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. Winner of the National Book Award in 2005, the late writer recounts her daughter's illness and husband's death. At number 4, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. How trauma affects the body and mind and innovative treatments for recovery. And at number 5, The Storyteller by Dave Grohl. A memoir by the musician known for his work with Foo Fighters and Nirvana. Our first recommended read for this week is Black Food by Bryant Terry. Award-winning vegan chef, food activist, and author Terry presents to readers a wonderfully deep dive into the food, culture, history, and people of the African diaspora, exploring its wide range across Africa to the American South, the Caribbean, and Afro-Asia. The book's generous variety of offerings includes playlists to cook by, essays, musings, poetry, and stories about food, food culture, and food systems, written by many authors from various backgrounds within the diaspora, such as the song Mother Earth by Cindy Blackman Santana, and the essays The Poetics of Afro-Asian Cuisine by Dr. Teo Lee Goff, Queer Intelligence, We Mobilize Through Food by Zoe Ajonio, and The Spiritual Ecology of Black Food by Leah Penniman. The recipes included are just as diverse a bunch as their contributors. Buttermilk biscuits, pili pili oil, Somali lamb stew, and doubles. Notes and personal stories within recipes, which are 1 to 2 pages, many including pictures, will make readers feel engaged and excited to cook. This is not only a book of recipes, but a book of history and experiences that readers will enjoy digging into as they bring the global community of the diaspora into their kitchen. And that is the book list review. Our second recommended read for this week is history. Not surprisingly, yours truly is a history major. This is the new book by H.W. Brands. It's called Our First Civil War: Patriots and Loyalists in the American Revolution. Historian Brands delivers a page-turning account of the bitter fight between Americans who wanted nothing to do with independence and those who rebelled against British rule before and during the Revolutionary War. Characterizing Benjamin Franklin and George Washington, who both achieved considerable success under the British regime as, quote, the unlikeliest of rebels, Brands chronicles their military and diplomatic efforts to advance the British cause in the French and Indian War, that of course preceded the American Revolution. But I'm digressing. Britain's endeavors to recoup its war debts after the French and Indian War by taxing the colonists, the subsequent passage of the Intolerable Acts, and a continued disregard for American rights helped push Washington and Franklin to call for independence, according to Brands. While Loyalists, including Massachusetts politician Thomas Hutchinson and Franklin's illegitimate son, New Jersey Governor William Franklin, believed that the colonies were best served by remaining part of the British Empire. Brands also profiles Grace Groudon Galloway, who discovered a certain freedom in having nothing more to lose after her Loyalist husband fled Philadelphia and Patriots seized her house. Brands also documents the experience of enslaved Africans who fought on both sides of the war. Gripping prose and lucid explanation of the period's complex politics makes this an essential reconsideration of the Revolutionary era, and that is the Starred Publishers Weekly Review. I'm on a nonfiction kick this week, so our first audiobook recommendation is also nonfiction. It's a fun one. It's called A History of the World in 6 Glasses by Tom Standage. The audio is narrated by Sean Rennett. Throughout human history, certain drinks have done much more than simply quench a thirst, as Tom Standage relates with authority and charm. 6 of them have had a surprisingly pervasive influence on the course of history, becoming the defining drink during a pivotal historical period. A History of the World in 6 Glasses tells the story of humanity from the Stone Age to the 21st century through the lens of beer, wine, spirits, coffee, tea, and cola. Beer was first made in the Fertile Crescent, and by 3000 BCE was so important to Mesopotamia and Egypt that it was used to pay wages. In ancient Greece, wine became the main export of her vast seaborne trade, helping spread Greek culture abroad. Spirits such as brandy and rum fueled the age of exploration, fortifying seamen on long voyages and oiling the pernicious slave trade. And although coffee originated in the Arab world, it stoked revolutionary thought in Europe during the Age of Reason, when coffee houses became centers of intellectual exchange. And hundreds of years after the Chinese began drinking tea, it became especially popular in Britain, with far-reaching effects on British foreign policy. Finally, though carbonated drinks were invented in 18th century Europe, they became a 20th century phenomenon, and Coca-Cola in particular is the leading symbol of globalization. For Tom Standage, each drink is a different kind of technology, a catalyst for advancing culture, by which he demonstrates the intricate interplay of different civilizations. You may never look at your favorite beverage the same way again. Our second audiobook recommendation for this week is the Joan Didion memoir, The Year of Magical Thinking. She won the National Book Award for this title back in 2005, and it's on the bestseller list now because the author passed just before Christmas at the age of 87. Having said that, let me tell you a bit about the book, in this case the audiobook, which is narrated by Barbara Caruso. From one of America's iconic writers, a stunning book of electric honesty and passion that explores an intensely personal yet universal experience, a portrait of a marriage and a life, in good times and bad, that will speak to anyone who has ever loved a husband or wife or child. Several days before Christmas, 2003, John Gregory Dunn and Joan Didion saw their only daughter, Quintana, fall ill with what seemed at first flu, then pneumonia, and then complete septic shock. She was put into an induced coma and placed on life support. Days later, the night before New Year's Eve, the Dunns were just sitting down to dinner after visiting the hospital when John Gregory Dunn suffered a massive and fatal coronary. In a second, this close, symbiotic partnership of 40 years was over. 4 weeks later, their daughter pulled through. 2 months after that, arriving at LAX, she collapsed and underwent 6 hours of brain surgery at UCLA Medical Center to relieve a massive hematoma. This powerful book is Didion's attempt to make sense of, quote, the weeks and then months that cut loose any fixed idea I ever had about death, about illness, about marriage and children and memory, and the shallowness of sanity, and about life itself. It's a very good read, but a rather dark one. So if you're in the mood for a true life memoir with some grittiness, check this one out. Moving on to our first streaming recommendation, it's the 1993 film In the Line of Fire, directed by Wolfgang Peterson and starring Clint Eastwood, John Malkovich, and Rene Russo. You can stream this from Netflix, Amazon, Apple, and Google Play. And the DVD can be requested through StarCat. In the film, Clint Eastwood portrays an aging Secret Service agent who's still haunted by the guilt of being on duty the day that JFK was assassinated in Dallas. Now, on the eve of his retirement, when a brand new psycho killer begins taunting him about taking out the president, he gets a chance at redemption. That makes this electrically charged film sound cornier than it is. It's actually one of those rare Hollywood blockbusters that manages to be slick and complex at the same time. With a handful of truly unforgettable action scenes, thanks to director Wolfgang Petersen and Malkovich's wonderfully unhinged lunatic on the loose. And that review is by Chris Nastaway for AARP. And yes, AARP offers reviews of movies. And if you're under a certain age and wonder what that means, AARP actually stands for the Association of American Retired Persons. And you can get an AARP card at 50, should you be so inclined. I've got one. But I digress. On a viewer's note, a movie that would pair well within the line of fire as the second film of a double feature evening is the movie Guarding Tess from 1994. It's a dramedy starring Shirley MacLaine as a presidential widow and Nicolas Cage as the lead Secret Service agent charged with ensuring her safety. The movie can be rented from Apple, Amazon, or Google Play, or requested through StarCat on DVD from the library. Our second streaming recommendation for this week is the 1998 classic Saving Private Ryan, directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Tom Hanks, Matt Damon, and Tom Sizemore. You can stream the movie from Amazon, Apple, and Google Play, and you can request the DVD through StarCat. Steven Spielberg won his second Academy Award for Best Director with this World War II epic that our critic called soberly magnificent. The film fuses the types and tropes of vintage war pictures with a less romanticized view of the horrors of combat. The virtuosic, nearly dialogue-free, over 20-minute recreation of the Omaha beach landing at the beginning of the film is as vivid and visceral a demonstration that war is hell as has ever been put to celluloid. And while the story that follows, a no-nonsense captain leads his shell-shocked unit into Normandy in an attempt to find the sole surviving son of a battle-torn family, may be less intense, it's no less powerful. That review is by Jason Bailey for the New York Times, and Bailey also recommends as a double feature The Great Escape, which is a more traditional, but as he puts it, still essential, World War II adventure. I have seen this one, probably many of you have seen it too. I would agree with the review here. The whole movie is good, but that recreation of Omaha Beach, that really stays with one. I had no idea that something could be, the battle could be so loud that you really couldn't hear, but it is well portrayed in that 20-minute recreation of the landing. So check out Saving Private Ryan, available to stream, and of course you can request it on DVD from the library. And our third streaming recommendation for this week is the movie The Wasteland, directed by David Kasdamont and starring Enima Cuesta, Roberto Almo, and Alejandra Howard. This is available from Netflix. This Spanish thriller is sure to keep you on your toes this January. The Wasteland offers a tumultuous tale of a young mother and her whip-smart son in the 19th century. And while it may not be as glitzy as Netflix's other period dramas, the flick is sure to keep you entertained. A small family lives in seclusion, but they can't hide from the evil beast that lurks around their safe house. And little Diago will need to save his mother from the monster and herself if the family wants to save themselves. And that overview is from Fletcher Peters for All Decider. And finally, our hoopla recommendation for this week is the classic film West Side Story from 1961. I thought I'd recommend this film as there's a new version out, directed by Steven Spielberg, and you might want to watch both and contrast the differences. Having said that, let me read you the overview here. It says the greatest love story ever told in the most acclaimed musical of all time. Winner of 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, this electrifying musical sets the ageless tragedy of Romeo and Juliet against a backdrop of gang warfare in 1950s New York. The film features an unforgettable score, exuberant choreography, and powerful performances by Natalie Wood, Russ Tamblyn, Richard Reimer, and Rita Moreno. West Side Story will forever resonate as a true cinematic masterpiece. So check it out. If you have questions about this weekly videocast, send me an email. My email address is reimerl@stls.org. That's reimerl@stls.org. And I'll get back to you. Currently, the library is open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., and we are closed on Sundays. The library's website is found at ssclibrary.org. You can find a whole host of information about the library, including what activities are going on in person or online. You can access our catalogs. There's a whole bunch of great resources available through our website, so check it out. StarCat and the BookMine app. StarCat is the catalog of physical library materials, i.e. print books, DVDs, etc. StarCat is available to all cardholders of the public libraries in the Southern Tier Library System, which encompasses all the public libraries in Steuben, Chemung, Yates, Schuyler, and Allegheny counties. You can find StarCat online at starcat.stls.org, or you can go to your app store and download the StarCat app, which is called BookMine. That's BookMyne. Download that to your mobile device, and you can access StarCat through the app. The digital catalog and its companion app, Libby. The digital catalog is like StarCat, except it offers digital content to all library cardholders within the Southern Tier Library System. So that means eBooks, downloadable audiobooks, a handful of streaming videos too. So online you can find the digital catalog at stls.overdrive.com, or you can download the Libby app to your mobile device. Additionally of note, if you have a dedicated e-reader like the Kindle Paperwhite, you can get digital catalog content, also known as Libby content, on your e-reader. But there's a different way to do that. So if you have questions about how to put ebooks on your dedicated e-reader, just know that you can do that. Just call the library or drop by and we will walk you by the steps, which are a little different depending upon which dedicated e-reader you have. Hoopla. The Hoopla catalog features ebooks, comic books, full-length albums, downloadable audiobooks, and streaming videos, including both TV shows and movies. All Hoopla items are available for instant checkout for Southeast Steuben County Library cardholders with a maximum of 10 checkouts per card per month. Communicating with the library. If you have a question about library services during the pandemic, you are welcome to go the traditional route and simply give us a call. The library's telephone number is 607-936-3713. And you can also connect with the library via social media. The library has pages on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Library blogs. We have several of them. We have the Book Club for Adults blog, found at ssclbook.club, and about, you guessed it, the monthly book club for adults. The Corning NY History blog, which is our local history blog featuring weekly postings. That one's found at corningnyhistory.com. We have Creation Stationery, our Makerspace blog, which you can access at creationstationery.com. We also have Storing Musings, a blog hosted by the library's resident author and head of adult services, Michelle Wells, which is found at storymusings.blogspot.com. And finally, we have Tech and Book Talk, a readers, viewers, and listeners advisory blog, which is found at sscltech.com. And notable, you will also find each episode of Library Connections posted to the blog, usually on Tuesday of the week after they air, episodes airing, of course, on Fridays. And our references over the week. And that's the program for this week. I'll be back next week with a new edition of Library Connections, and hopefully I will have found the cable for my microphone, and I will definitely get a new battery for my Bluetooth remote. Have a great week.